Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another live stream. Thank you so much for tuning in for another show. Welcome to all of our subscribers, members, and viewers from all across the world. If you're new to this live stream, I have these regularly with in-depth talk and open space for the community. And I also have videos that I post on my video tab that are shorter with recent updates. In this live stream, I wanted to talk to you about primarily two subjects. And then, of course, I'll open the space up for the community if you would like me to elaborate on anything further. But the first one is a report from the Al-Mayadeen network that they had sources inside of Israel confirming that Hezbollah landed all 6 of their drones in Galilot. Hezbollah said that they carried out this attack on the day of the first phase of retaliation for the assassination of Fuad Shukr, saying that they tried to distract the Iron Dome as much as possible with the Katyusha missiles that they launched to the northern parts of Israel, only to allow their drones to reach their targets. At the time, the Secretary General of Hezbollah confirmed that they indeed reached their targets, but they are waiting on further elaboration when it comes to Israel and getting information from their sources. If they landed and who did they kill? We also had a report coming out that, not confirmed, that the head of the 8,200 unit, Yossi Sariel, was killed. This is a man who, by some sort of unprofessionalism, revealed his real identity several years back after he published a book with his initials. People were able to find out that it's him. Clearly, Hezbollah found out that it was him too. However, there is no confirmation that this man was assassinated. But according to this report that I wanted to discuss with you, the sources of Al-Mayadeen network, they confirmed that they landed. And the second thing that I wanted to talk to you about is Israel saying that they have appointed someone to be the military ruler of Gaza for years ahead. These people are not looking to have any sort of peace, any sort of deal. And they have appointed someone to take charge of Gaza militarily, de facto, a military ruler of Gaza, according to them, to coordinate certain things to do with the aid and how things go ahead moving forward when it comes to Gaza. I'm going to start off with the report from Al-Mayadeen about the attack and the fact that these missiles landed. Now, this is only coming from Al-Mayadeen so far. Usually when it comes to verifying, you of course need more than one source. But Al-Mayadeen, and of course depending on who they have inside of Israel giving them that information, they have confirmed. They said reliable sources confirmed to Al-Mayadeen that it has been confirmed within the Israel occupation entity that Hezbollah actually succeeded and certainly reaching and hitting the Israeli intelligence unit 8,200. And that's their article. So they added the sources indicated that at least 6 drones launched by the Islamic resistance in Lebanon succeeded in penetrating the Israeli air defenses, stressing that it was fully confirmed that the 6 drones hit their targets with high accuracy inside the Galilot base located deep inside Israel near Tel Aviv. In addition, reliable sources also confirmed that military personnel and civilians alike were prevented from approaching or entering the base, the sources added. In light of this, Al-Mayadeen's reliable sources stressed that the Arba'in operation succeeded in a way that leaves no room for doubt for Hezbollah, despite the complete Israeli blackout in terms of security, military, and media. They mean by that the censorship that is being carried out in Israel when it comes to this operation. It is noteworthy that the Secretary General of Hezbollah, Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, revealed hours after the operation was carried out last Sunday that the main target of the response to the assassination and the martyrdom of a number of civilians in the southern suburb of Beirut was the Galilot base affiliated with the Israeli military intelligence Aman and Unit 8200 near Tel Aviv. The second target of the operation is the air defense base in Ain Shemer, which is 75 kilometers from Lebanon and 40 kilometers from Tel Aviv. Mr. Nasrallah confirmed that a significant number of drones reached these targets with the occupation concealing, while the occupation is concealing this, stressing that, quote, the days and nights will reveal the truth of what happened. While Mr. Nasrallah indicated that the resistance will follow up on the outcome of the Israeli secrecy, he made it clear that the resistance, quote, will consider what happened in the operation, and if it's sufficient, if the response is satisfactory, but if it does not see it as such, it will reserve the right to complete the response. So Hizbullah, the Secretary General at the time, he said that we are also considering the negotiations. So he's giving some room for something to work. However, he did not confirm whether or not this will prevent them from continuing with the response. Israel, so far, they are denying. They haven't confirmed. Of course, there's a lot of censorship when it comes to Israel, and they most likely won't confirm unless, that is, Israel decides to reach some sort of a ceasefire and accept that as some sort of an agreement or understanding that, look, we confirmed that a senior figure was killed, here's your win. However, it's quite unlikely for Israel to give Hezbollah a win. And even if they want to reach a ceasefire, I'm not certain that they will do that they will confirm the identity of this man. That's if we definitely have a confirmation, like Al-Mayadeen reported. The second thing that I wanted to talk to you about is Gaza. So there's no hope in reaching a solution. There's no hope for a ceasefire. Benjamin Netanyahu is delaying. As a matter of fact, they are increasing and escalating further and further. They have another round of negotiations going on in Doha now. So 2 weeks ago, remember, it was the last round of negotiations. And then they said, oh no, we need to elaborate further in Cairo. They went to Cairo. Oh no, we need to go back now to Doha, and they're back to Doha. With what? With the same failed recipe. Benjamin Netanyahu sending a gutted delegation without any real powers to try and show the Americans that, hey, look, Mr. Biden and USA, we are negotiating, we are trying to reach a deal. However, they said some interesting things in this article that might hint that they are considering a withdrawal, and they are considering the rebuilding, and they are considering certain things, and these things would be understood from between the lines. And usually Israel, before it wants to take a very drastic step, they have test balloons to see how the public will take it, how the public will react, to see if it's possible to continue with such a plan. So the title was in the Israeli newspaper, Ynet Chief Gaza Officer, the new special forces, which symbolized the occupation of the Gaza Strip for years to come. They're calling him the Chief Gaza Officer. The lack of setting strategic goals by the cabinet for the future of Gaza does not cause the problem to be solved soon. And the IDF accepts the fact that Israel's responsibility for life in the Strip will continue and even expand in the coming years. For the 2 million Palestinians who have been living under Israeli occupation for nearly 11 months, a sort of a Chief Gaza Officer, this man will be Officer Gilad Oren. who grew up in the coordination headquarters for government operations in the territories, does not yet have a precise job definition as the head of a headquarters brigade, but he will be the first to carry out a position of corresponding to the head of the civil administration in the Judea and Samaria territories, which are the West Bank territories. Israel calls them Judea and Samaria, which is currently held by Lieutenant Colonel Hisham Ibrahim. It's not a projector. It's a role that will be with us in the coming years, literally years ahead. A senior security official told Ynet, anyone who thinks that Israel and its control and involvement in the Gaza Strip will end soon with or without the rate of fighting that will fade or increase, hostage deal or not, is wrong. While the head of the Coordination and Liaison Directorate for Gaza, an officer with the rank of Lieutenant Colonel, who handles and will continue to handle daily tactical issues such as the delivery of humanitarian aid at crossings and roads in the Strip, repairing local infrastructure destroyed in the fighting, and regular contact with foreign aid organizations, Brigadier General Goren is expected to lead civilian strategic moves for the longer term in order to continue acquiring international legitimacy to continue fighting in Gaza without it experiencing a humanitarian crisis or famine, as has not happened since the outbreak of the IDF's major ground operation in Gaza. Goren, who served as the head of the civil department in the military intelligence service in his last position and during the fighting in the south, will be the second officer to bear the burdens of the war, its needs and illusions, in a position that is appointed to a senior rank. Brigadier General Roni Katsir, who serves as the head of the International Law Department in the Military Prosecutor's Office, did this before the war. But due to the increasing needs that increased the department, it grew to a brigade led by an officer of a higher rank. It was subordinate previously. On the agenda of the new unit in the Israeli Defense Forces, major operations that have already begun to evacuate people. Hold on a second. Major operations that have already begun to evacuate seriously injured and sick citizens to hospitals in Jordan, Egypt, or the Emirates, preparing the Gaza Strip for the next winter against the backdrop of vast destroyed infrastructure, coordinating the big move to vaccinate more than 1 million Gazans against polio, harnessing the international community and coordinating with it to restore entire civilian structures that collapsed in the Gaza Strip. I will elaborate on some of these points because some of them are very important. They could mean certain things. Just this evening, the Prime Minister's office announced, for example, that certain places will be allocated in the Gaza Strip for the benefit of giving polio vaccines to the population with the support of the professionals. Brigadier General Goren is also expected to take central part in the massive civil operations that will soon be implemented if the abductees deal is closed. The apparent return of about 500,000 Gazans to their homes in the north of Gaza Strip under supervision in the Netzarim corridor. After the flight from their homes to the placed persons camps in the South Gaza Strip by the order of the IDF about 10 months ago. The issue of the Rafah crossing and the existence of a mechanism, listen to this, that will manage it instead of the IDF and as part of the hostage deal will also be at the door of the senior officer, as now appears to be one of the solutions is going to be the return of international bodies that will control the crossing as it was until 2005 with a local Palestinian presence in the compound on the Philadelphia corridor. So far, they said a couple of important things. Number one, confirming the return of the people to the north. Number two, confirming the rebuilding of Gaza, including large civilian buildings, and Israel had an issue with that. Then confirming the presence of a Palestinian side and an international side on the Philadelphia corridor without mentioning an Israeli side. All of these hint that they are preparing to not be there. This is what's new about this report, that they are not mentioning Israel, and they're talking about a mechanism in the Netzarim line, a certain mechanism. And again, despite the fact that this is new, at least when you compare it to the recent statements that are coming from Netanyahu and the government, that doesn't necessarily mean we're heading towards ceasefire. It doesn't necessarily mean that we will be heading towards a solution. However, what it does mean is that the Israeli media is preparing the public opinion for a potential full withdrawal from Gaza, because from what we're understanding, this is hinting that a full withdrawal might happen. And they continued, Gaza will occupy us a lot in the coming years, even more than today. And the task will be to continue to give breathing space for the forces to fight in order to meet the goals of the war and accordingly lower the international criticism against us, the security source said. Meanwhile, in a series of discussions, the defense establishment is currently trying to find a solution to the issue of humanitarian food and fuel that the IDF allows to be brought into the Gaza Strip every day by order of the cabinet. Tons of this food reach Hamas, which controls the shelters of the displaced, and thus Israel allows what they call as terrorists to be fed. To Israel, they're trying to bypass this to avoid the paradox, according to them. Why? Because they don't want any aid reaching Hamas. And again, what are they confirming here indirectly? That them, of course, delivering the aid failed. Having an alternative inside of Gaza, although they are present heavily in Gaza and are waging this barbaric genocide, also failed. And they have no other option but to deal with Hamas when it comes to the aid. And again, that's the thing that they are trying to instill in the heads of the Israeli public, that we're going to have to deal with them. We're going to have to deal with the Palestinian side, and we're going to have to deal with Hamas like they've done before. And then they continued to talk about this attack. This is where they ended when it comes to this new Gaza chief. Then they only added a couple of things about them shooting again. Well, surprise, surprise, a UN vehicle designated to provide food, United Nations Food Organization. They say their claim that its armored vehicle came under fire just a few meters from an IDF checkpoint in the Netzarim area in the center of Gaza Strip. Although the UN told them, firstly, we are there, and they coordinated with them, and they saw them, and they knew where they were going. Well, who's surprised? That's Israel. It's a death cult. They want to kill and make people die. That's what they're there for. You see what they did with the World Kitchen? People, for foreigners from any part of the world, coming, killing them, bombing them, although they were on the radio with them, telling them where we're going. They knew who they are. They knew who they are. They just want to make life as miserable as possible. So this chief Gaza officer thing is a little bit suspicious. It might be something to prepare the public opinion for a potential deal. And also simultaneously tell the people, look, we're here, we're heading towards a long process that, is not going to stop even if we have a ceasefire. And Benjamin Netanyahu is trying to have a new status quo, a new reality, where he can continue this genocide. Lower heat, higher heat, it doesn't really matter. so long as it continues. But that failed. That failed clearly. Why? Because he is still facing, firstly, resistance, inner criticism, and criticism at every level. You're talking about the people closest to him. For example, all of the negotiating delegation agreed on a ceasefire multiple times. The recent confirmation we had was from Yoav Gallant, who said to the people, to the families of the Israeli prisoners, who told them the conditions have ripened for a deal over 1.5 months ago, and that is the same situation now. The conditions have ripened for a deal. We have a deal, but basically all it takes is a signature. But Netanyahu does not want to offer it. Of course, he wants to continue and save his position, and he of course wants to drag everything into an all-out war. And this is what I wanted to share with you. Let me open the space up for all of you. Check if you have anything, and welcome everyone to another live stream. Zach, what are your thoughts on the WHO saying Hamas and IOF agreed to a 3-day ceasefire in 3 different zones for 3 separate days? I just heard this on the Middle East Eye. Well, I haven't heard that. I'd be surprised if it's true. No, I haven't seen anything as such. And again, that goes against everything that Hamas said. I haven't seen it, unless you wouldn't mind like posting a link or something. Because Hamas, their main aim out of all of these negotiations, the fact that they're not negotiating now, is because they don't want to drag and they don't want anything. If they wanted another temporary ceasefire, they would have had it. They would have had it a long time ago. But they don't want it because they are concerned for the safety and security of the Palestinian people. They can't have a ceasefire and then Israel can go ahead and start the war again. This is their logic, and it's a correct logic. Why? Because why should this genocidal entity go and attack whenever it wants? They're used to it, Israel. They're like an entitled, spoiled entity that's very arrogant and racist and violent. They're used to doing all of these things. But Hamas are telling them that we're not going to accept that. You want a ceasefire? End the war. Completely end it. Have an agreement, long-term, rebuilding aid, people going back, all of that. So I'd be surprised if they had anything. Look, what we did have previously is maybe it could have been an undeclared ceasefire at the time, like 4 months ago. I called it like a semi-ceasefire at the time because on the ground we were seeing less intensity, and Israel was starting to take certain actions that were prerequisites to a ceasefire, like opening the space for people to go back to the north, allowing aid to go into Gaza, and releasing some Palestinian prisoners. Usually when these things happen, they happen as a result of certain diplomatic action or certain negotiations that have been happening, where it would be agreed upon that, they won't declare it. And who knows, they could have had this and without telling anyone, right? And Israel all of a sudden found some of the bodies, right? Do you understand? But so far, nothing official in terms of an actual ceasefire. And thank you for your participation. The Phil guy, Mahmoud, why doesn't mainstream media cover the West Bank invasion at all? Before this, they would never ever shut up about Hamas and Israel right to defend itself, and now they are eerily silent. Because the mainstream media, mostly Western mainstream media, they don't view the Palestinians as people, or at least as equal human beings. They view them as below them, as Arabs, Middle Easterners. And I don't want to say more bad words, right? Racism, supremacy, depravity, and everything low you can think of. To them, the people are being killed and tortured and kidnapped and raped. That's nothing. Nothing to Western mainstream media. Why? Because how can they claim that Israel represents their morals and values and Israel is the only Western democracy in the Middle East if it... No, they're not. Of course, someone talk about it. What's happening in the West Bank? Of course, we have a bigger military operation, but these people have been suffering for the past... Have been suffering since 67, right? But the day-to-day stuff, before the 7th of October, every week, a few people getting killed. Do you hear that on Western mainstream media? No, because they want to keep the supremacist genocidal entity of terror appear clean and nice and shiny. And, the Western state and the Middle East, and no, how can they? No, of course not. And of course, they'll tell you, oh, no, we call on Israel to, respect international law. Please respect it. Of course, they'll be silent. And they're poisonous. Mainstream media equals poison. And even if they talk about it, suspect them. Even if they start telling you what's happening, suspect them. There's always going to be poison. Because they are controlled by the same people. By the same people. Well, most media, Rupert Murdoch. Who's Rupert Murdoch? Don't we know who he is? And other media outlets. But in general, they'll support left media and right media and media that acts like it's, unbiased and what have you. So it's not surprising. It's not surprising. And I was thinking about that today. And it's not surprising. Why are they not publishing the butchered children images on live television? Why did they immediately accept this child murdering entity's lie of beheaded babies and raped women and plaster it on mainstream media and newspapers all across the world without one substantial piece of evidence? Yet when you have thousands and thousands of videos and images of butchered and slaughtered Palestinian children, they don't publish one thing. Why is that? It's because they're like Israel. They're just as depraved. They're just as abhorrent. They're just as vile. They're just as evil as them. They don't care about the Palestinian lives. They don't care about the Palestinian children's lives. They ignore them. They view you as nothing, as an Arab in the Middle East who cares about you. And then you have the enlightened ones, right? The enlightened ones, who even ridicule them. The Israelis, they swear at them and they ridicule them. They say, we're using you. And they constantly lick their boots and defending them to this day. It shows you the collapse of the values that Western powers talk about. That's what's leading to the collapse of their empire now. All of it is collapsing. Democracy, human rights, equality. Shut up. Shut up, you lying hypocrite. What democracy? What human rights? You lying hypocrite. You can't call it a genocide in Palestine. You immoral hypocrites. So of course they're going to ignore it. It's not surprising. And thanks again for your observation. Mahmoud, are you Sunni or Shia? I'm neither, my friend. I'm a Muslim. Religiously, I describe myself as a Muslim, and I don't believe that you have sects in Islam. That's something that Muslims created. In Islam, you're ordered to be a Muslim, not to be of any sect. And there are many verses to support that, by the way. We can have another discussion about that. And I'm a human being who believes that we're all a big global human family as well, right? Religion, you choose your religion, but we're all human beings. We should all view each other equally as human beings and respect one another as well. The Shikoma, is it true that the rapist squatter now is a celebrity in the pariah state? Yeah, he goes on live television, the rapist. Imagine the depravity of this state and most of its people. The nation, depravity as a whole. They bring a rapist who raped a Palestinian prisoner, a helpless Palestinian prisoner, and it was recorded, and they defend him and they protect him. Someone explain to me, what kind of people are we talking about here? What kind of people are we talking about? Oh yeah, he has a right to. And some of them try and justify it religiously too. Some of them try to justify it religiously in Israel. Oh, according to our religion, huh? You can do that. You can rape him. IG to me, thank you so much. Salam Mahmoud, great discussion with Kevin yesterday. Thank you so much, man. Do you ship merchandise globally? Yes, wherever the company operates, because that's based on demand. So you can check, and after you check and choose anything you like, they will usually give you all of the details because it's automated. And again, thank you so much. I'm glad you liked the discussion with Kevin. I also enjoy my my discussions with Kevin. And apparently some of you weren't able to share it on Facebook, you told me. Facebook doesn't like certain things, right? Vivette saying, hi Mahmoud, is it true that Israel agreed a humanitarian pause for polio shots with WHO? Does that mean also with Hamas? I haven't heard a confirmation yet of that. They've been begging them. Israel has been refusing. The only reason Israel would do that is because of Israel, by the way, not for the Palestinians. They want to kill them. They want to kill everyone. They want to spread diseases. They want to spread famine. They want the people to die. And they enjoy it. You need to understand the Israeli mentality in general. They enjoy seeing Palestinian children die. You need to know that. If you go to some of in the comment section in the Israeli news websites that I sometimes share with you on my community tab, you will see what they say when like newborns die. Oh, good riddance, liars, Hamas. How comes you're even having children? Good riddance, all of you. This is what they say. So they want them to have diseases. But with regards to the polio, they might reach an agreement. Why? Because they know their child murderers in Gaza might get polio too. So they don't want that. But we haven't had a confirmation yet. We haven't seen a confirmation yet. And are they going to use that as a step to kind of go for an all-out ceasefire? Is it going to be the thing that does it? Or could Netanyahu use it? We don't know. So far, Netanyahu doesn't want to. He doesn't want to do anything. But we'll see. Question, Marv Berg is saying, did you hear about Namibia stopping a Portuguese ship from entering water suspected of carrying bound weapons to Israel? Namibia, South Africa, which other, every single other country, their shoes, the shoes of the people who make these decisions are better than all of the heads of Arab states that took no action against this genocide. These people. Namibia, Colombia, South Africa took Israel to the ICJ. Have you thought about that for a second? And you have Namibian countries from all across the world, non-Arab countries, non-Muslim countries, taking such noble actions against a genocidal entity when some of the Arab states are still trying to protect them? Someone explain that to me. Someone explain that to me. 10, 11 months in. It shows you that this entity is losing globally, and they are suffering massively from all of this. Yet they're trying to downplay it, as if it's not effective and this and that. I heard about that, and good on them, good on Namibia, good on every single country that takes action, any action to punish these people, and push to lift this genocide of the Palestinian people. 1984 Sarajevo has, thank you so much, by the way, for your soup, much appreciated. Has Netanyahu in recent days only leave his bunker once? Is it true that Iran has offered to resume the nuclear agreement with the USA, and from the USA that Iran doesn't want war but peace? I'm irritated about that. Thank you for that. Netanyahu, well, I'm not sure when he does or he doesn't leave his bunker, of course. I have no information about that. But what I do know is that Netanyahu's security team, the head of his security, came up with an unprecedented order, very extreme, for all of his security team. Benjamin Netanyahu cannot move without my approval. So the head of the security needs to approve every move. So he's in bunkers. Any move he has to make, it has to be very urgent and very needed and required, and it needs to be approved by the head. Why? Because they know that Hezbollah and Iran and Ansarullah are targeting senior figures, and one of them would be Benjamin Netanyahu. Secondly, is it true that Iran offered to resume the nuclear agreement with the United States and with the USA, and informed the USA that Iran doesn't want war but peace? I'm irritated about that. I totally understand your sentiment, number one. When it comes to offer to resume a nuclear agreement, we heard reports. However, I didn't hear it from multiple sources, but these things could be going on as conversations between them, because of course they want to reach a certain agreement. How effective that would be now before a new president comes in, Lord knows, because when Trump came in, he canceled all of the agreements that the Obama administration had with Iran. So Iran also know that. But what Iran knows more is something that the Supreme Leader Sayyid Ali Khamenei said, I think it was today, that Iran is a regional power. It's growing economically, militarily, in terms of production. It became a regional power, a power to be considered by all of the region and all of the world. And Iran is indeed in that position. Iran is the biggest player in the Middle East now. Iran is the biggest player in the Middle East. And they know that. That's why all of these countries are going to Iran and begging them, don't attack. Iran is using all of that as leverage. They haven't yet at all said that we are giving up our right to. No, they always say that, even with the latest speech of the Iranian President Pezeshkian. Of course, they want stability and peace. They always say that. But they also say that we reserve the right to retaliate. Okay, when and how, of course, that might be frustrating to some people, but unfortunately, our feelings are not a part of the consideration of the Iranian government. It's much bigger considerations. It's how good they are in terms of a potential repercussion. It's how successful their attack would be. It's the level of potential damage it can inflict on them. It's the length of the time that they can survive in or continue to fight in and keep their state and their economy and their people. They have responsibility. And it's the fronts surrounding them. You see, listen, in general, look at how much the United States administration and NATO provoked Russia and provoked China. The US constantly provoke. Russia and China are reasonable. They're very reasonable. They don't respond in an erratic manner or in a reckless manner. Iran is very similar. Even Hezbollah is similar. Hezbollah, have you seen an all-out war in Lebanon yet? No. This is what the opposition to Hezbollah constantly bangs on about. Oh, you don't drag us into... They haven't dragged you to a war. Why? Because they're calculated. Because they know, and by definition, they are. a supporting front. They're not part of the war, technically. Don't forget that. No one forget that. They are not part of the war all out. They are part of a supporting front. And the definition, there's a difference between being a full participant in a war all out and being a supporting front. Supporting fronts, they have other duties as a country waging an all-out war. Exhaust, hurt the economy, take away the levels of aggression that comes from the army on Gaza. And Hezbollah took 50% of that. Ansarullah destroyed the economy. And Iran, they are the wisest, of course, country, because to them, I'm doing all of that remotely. Understand? I'm supporting. And of course, these groups, they have their independence, they have their will, and they have people who are genuine, but they are supported by Iran. It's not like Iran is not supporting them. And again, how, when, who, all of that is based on the calculations that I just mentioned to you. Abd al-Haq is in the West Bank invasion is an admission of defeat and designed to divert attention from their failures. Well, if you think about it from a military perspective, they're going on an operation that will last for a few days. Today, they killed a leading figure or the leader of the resistance group that acts as an umbrella for resistance movements. Abu Shuja, his name was, he's part of the PIJ, but under his umbrella are Al-Qassam brigades and Fatah. Okay, they killed him. Well, they kill leaders of resistance every year, multiple times a year sometimes. Each time someone comes and takes the position of I'm leading the group, they'll go and kill him. Did they stop? No, they escalated. So what is the point? Interesting, you're saying divert the attention. Probably, and maybe they are planning to reach some sort of a deal, like with the report of this Gaza chief thing and the talk about the reconstruction, having a Palestinian side on the Philadelphia corridor, certain mechanisms and all of that. Maybe. You know, we were not really hopeful that it will happen because the pattern that we've seen so far is, you know, escalation after escalation and no genuine actions coming from Israel to try and do something. But they don't have to divert the attention to defeat because the defeat is visible to everyone. Like, how does anyone measure a military defeat? Tell me what your objectives are and tell me if you've achieved them or not. Have you reached your objectives? Yes, you're successful. No, you failed. Simple. What is Israel's first and top priority objective, declared objective? We're not going to go into the undeclared objectives or the genuine, real objectives of the genocide and the ethnic cleansing. But the declared objectives, what are they? The main one is demolishing the Hamas. You demolished everything but the Hamas. You empowered Hamas. You recruited people for Hamas. You recruited global support for Hamas and the armed resistance. If anyone was scared to say, I support the armed resistance today, they'll tell you, I support them and they have the right. Who did that? Israel did that. Why? By going through this genocide and showing the people who they are. If you want to weaken your opposition, what do? You provide a better alternative. I don't like someone. I don't like this man. I don't like this group. They are a headache. What do? I show that I'm better than them. Okay, we're talking about people. People, hello? I know you have all this, but I want to offer you something better. Did Israel come to the civilians of Gaza and tell them, oh, hello, civilians of Gaza, let me firstly open the walls. Firstly, you can come and work. Secondly, you have freedom of movement. Thirdly, some of you are refugees from my state. Come and live where you are. I'm sorry I made this mistake a long time ago. Did Israel do any of that? No, they didn't. What did they do? They committed a genocide against them, a destruction. acts of barbarism. So to the Palestinian people, anyone hitting back is good. Do you know what I mean? So I'd have to be like a complete imbecile to not realize that Israel is failing. Yes, they caused destruction. Yes, they are committing a genocide. Yes, atrocities and barbarism and depravity. Okay. Did they reach their military objectives? No. Did they reach any political objective? No. Did they reach a social objectives? Did they gather the Israeli population around them and made them one nation again? No. Did they improve their international image? No. They did the contrary. Did they weaken the Palestinian cause? No. Did they increase the chances of having a massive peace process in the Middle East? No. So what did they achieve? Nothing. Going to West Bank and committing anything, I won't save them. It will not save them. Dr. X, thank you so much, my friend. He said, I'll agree with you, brother Mahmoud. Respect is a sophisticated demonstration of love that anyone can display. Totally. Thank you so much, my friend. And love your work, by the way. Okay. Sylvester, hope the resistance will not lose the momentum towards a one-state Palestine plus the end of the entity because of empty promises and conditioned potential ceasefire in Gaza. Well, the people of Palestine and the people who fight, or the Palestinian resistance, they know that it's not a 1 or 2 day game or a 1 or 2 year game. They've been doing this for decades. You had the Palestinian people resisting since 1948. It had an evolution, it changed shapes, it changed forms, it changed ideologies, but they continued. The active resistance continued. Why? Because the cause is still there. The resistance is a symptom and an antidote to a virus or a disease. The disease is still there. Zionism is still there. Zionism and all that it means is still there. So there's still resistance. Occupation is still there. There's still resistance. Oppression is still there. Killing is still there. Injustice, inequality, all of that, supremacy, racism, hate, all of that is still there. There will always be resistance for it. So even if we have a ceasefire, even if we have 10 years ahead without any real prospect of a solution, they will stay there. They're not going anywhere up until it's solved. They're not going anywhere up until it's solved. Why? Because the reasons are there. You want to get rid of the resistance? The best reason to get rid of it, the best way to get rid of the resistance is to provide a better alternative for the people equally. And that's where Israel always failed. Why? Because it is based as a supremacist, violent ideology that believes in its superiority, in its religious and ethnic superiority over other people. And that's why this ideology must not end only. It needs to be criminalized. Anyone supporting this ideology is a criminal thug, murderer, genocide supporter. So even if we reach a ceasefire, that doesn't mean it's going to end or going to. And there are priorities. Now the priority, stop the genocide. Stop the genocide, that's the priority. Ceasefire. And then try and continue. So long as the enablement of the United States administration to Israel continues, you will continue to have problems. You see, lots of what's happening, by the way, is American arrogance, the arrogance of the US administration. Why? Because Israel is a representation of this empire. And they're backing them fully to protect this empire. How long is it gonna work for? Not much. And we'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in for another live stream. Thank you for everyone who participated. Apologies if I missed some of your comments. Usually we'll miss some of them in the live stream. Thank you so much for everyone who sent supers, IG to me, 1984, and Dr. X. Much appreciated. I'll hopefully be with you tomorrow with a combination of videos and a live stream, or one or the other, hopefully. And stay safe, stay blessed, and enjoy the rest of your evening or night or day, depending on where you are. And I will see you soon in the next video. Peace, everyone.